Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Anyway, we do go with Purple Access. Judd, Zulgad, Chip Scoggins, my buddy, Star Tribune sports columnist, does a great job on all things sports, but of course covered the Vikings. The two of us did from 2007 or 8, Chipper, to about 2010, during the frenetic days, during the Favre days, during the, hold on a second here. Wait, why can't we end the cycle? Why can't we end? I saw your column in the Strib this morning. There's a lot to get to here. The Vikings have had what I think is a really solid, great start to the free agency period. But as you wrote about, what is it about that team that is a Velcro or a magnet to quarterback discussions of old people who probably shouldn't be discussed? Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's keeping this up. It certainly sounds from our friend Kevin Seifert's reporting like the door is not being closed at TCO. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, Judd, why is it only the Vikings could draft a quarterback with the 10th overall pick, and a year later we're talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This doesn't make sense to me. And at first I thought it was just, typical silly season, throw stuff out, good talking, let's give it. But I trust Kevin Seifert 100% completely. And when he says reports that they're discussing it and they haven't closed the door on it behind, in their conversations, I take that for what it is, that they're discussing this. And I just, for the life of me, he's going to be 42 in December, Judd.
I know.
And all the circus that you would bring with it, when all we hear about is how connected and chemistry and culture and tight that group was, and everybody is in the same, to even entertain that. And I understand he's Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame, everything. It goes against what I wrote about. Is they set out with this plan last year. Really, Kwesi let it kind of slide or announced when we were talking to him. I think it's last spring.
It was last spring because
that him and KO when they got there, they created a document. Actually, I said like a real document. He said, yeah, they sat down and said basically a roadmap. Of how they get this on the path that they want. And really, the two big takeaways from that was find a franchise quarterback and clear a bunch of cap space so you can build the infrastructure around that quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. They've done that. They're on that path. They had a bridge quarterback. They didn't get sucked into re-signing Darnold, which would have made no sense to me if you had to spend a lot of money and take away resources from other positions. So the Rodgers team, I'm struggling with. It'd be one of those things that if you got 2009 Favre, okay. If you got 2010, now it's going to blow up in your face.
And you were, first of all, in 2009, you were desperate because you had a really good team. Yes. And we were, and you, me, and I think Seifert was there. Mackey was there. That last practice in Mankato was one of the worst quarterback practices we've ever seen. Tavares dirting balls, Sage dirting balls, completely off the charts. And rightfully so, they went back to Eden Prairie and called Brett panicked, and Brett came back, and I think that Brett was all predisposed to come back once the Mankato portion of training camp was done. But nonetheless, the circumstance then, the reporting now is that the Vikings are like, well, we've assembled this roster now that's great, and the quarterback in the case of McCarthy is sort of an unknown. And so, if we get Rodgers, well, first of all, if that's really the thinking, to your point, he's 41 years old. He is not Favre in 2009. And furthermore, it's a top 10 quarterback. Like I told Mackey this. I said on a show that we did Wednesday, I said, if O'Connell signs off on this, my respect for him is way down, because Darnold was a project, right? And you didn't know if he was going to play or not, but he was like a baby, and you got a baby and you developed him, and congratulations. My respect for O'Connell will decrease a lot or be largely gone, because Rodgers, that would be your ego saying, I can make this work.
Yeah.
And I don't think he knows. We've all seen coaches sign up for things. I'll make it work. And then all hell breaks loose.
Well, and the whole the whole thing of the quarterback whisperer is, I can take a young quarterback and make him into a high-level quarterback in this league. And so O'Connell has a contract extension through 2029. He has the runway. This is not like, oh my gosh, we have to win this year or all hell's going to be, our jobs are on the line here. They've with the moves that they made this week, given some buffer around JJ to help him. You solidified your line. You've defensively you've improved the team, and so and you said if O'Connell signs off on it, this is not a Kwesi thing at all. When it comes to quarterback, it's 100% O'Connell. Like, I don't think Kwesi went in there and said, I think I'm going to sign Aaron Rodgers. This anything regarding the quarterback is 100% Kevin O'Connell. And so I just, again, it very well, if they did it, very well could. I'll preface by saying I don't think it's going to happen, right? I think it's still highly unlikely. I think JJ is going to be the guy next year. I think they'll find a veteran, of some caliber with experience.
Agreed.
But you and I covered Brett Favre arriving with helicopters, so I will never say never in this league.
Right.
It could work, but man, you run the risk of it not, and then of it not working, and then what are you going to? What's your explanation to your fan base, to your team,
or blows
or
up?
Yeah,
or it blows up in your culture. Like, they have done such a good job, right, of building that room, and they have, as far as I can tell, nobody with a voice in that room who ever throws anyone under the bus. Like, that's what Aaron does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. When's the last time he took responsibility?
Well, I mean, his sideline body language when things go bad, it's the eye rolls, the shrugs, it's to sit on the bench like, this is not my fault. I just, and I've heard people say, well, you might be getting him on his best behavior. Based on what?
For how long? for how long?
Yeah.
That's my question.
And beside that, like, I just wonder at 41 years old how much he has left, Judd.
So do I, yeah.
Physically, I mean, there's a cliff for everybody, And so I still think it's going to be JJ. I think this week has been very good for them. I think it's been very successful. I think they had a plan, and they said, we have to win in the trenches more than we are. They know interior offensive line was not good enough. They know interior defensive line with the pass rush was not good enough. They made that a priority. I think they just gone right down the checklist. Byron Murphy, check, got it done. I mean, we were debating last couple of weeks, like, how much that would cost. What did his average salary be? Was it 22 or 22?
22. 3 years.
You know what? We both said, man, if it got north of 20, you'd have to think. You had to get it done. Like, he's an important part of your defense, so what it costs is what it costs. I mean,
yep.
You got that done. The moves that you made in the trenches, getting Aaron Jones back. I think you still draft a running back, but getting Aaron Jones back, I really think they've hit the mark in terms of following their plan. And to me, the plan now is put JJ in there and let O'Connell do his thing and maximize what he can be. And
like the starting, so if there's a starting foundation of these signings, which have been fantastic, it is McCarthy's contract. Like, that's the thing too, is like, you have created, for the first time in how long, since before Kirk, you have created an ideal structure. And what I love is Will Fries, who's going to be the right guard. 5 years, $88 million. Okay, that's a big contract. Other than that, Aaron Jones, 2 years. Murphy, 3 years. Ryan Kelly, 3 years. Jonathan Allen, 3 years. Javon Hargrave, 2 years. Rodgers, the cornerback, 2 years.
Yeah.
The point being is they've really put themselves in this ideal situation where they didn't sign a bunch of guys to 5-year contracts, and now they're long in the tooth, and you're still paying a price. So, I mean, beyond the thing that the quarterback conversation drives me nuts. This is absolutely one of the most impressive, like, front office savvy. We're going to win now, but we're not going to tie ourselves down for 5 years that I have seen. And I am really, really impressed along with you by this class.
Yeah, I would say aggressive but flexible, right?
Yes.
And so how much of that, a number of these guys have had injury things. They're coming off injuries. And so did that hurt their market value, Judd? Maybe a little. Maybe they're, the Vikings are rolling the dice a little bit on the medical part and hoping that, their medical stuff checked out, and their performance staff, which we hear a lot about, is it Tyler Williams? I mean, O'Connell talks about them a lot and keeping guys healthy. And so, but you're right. The fact that they're not going to be saddled with a bunch of contracts, like in 3 years from now, we're like, oh my gosh, they got all the, this guy has hit the cliff, and they're going to need, these guys are going to have some bounce back performances, but they have resumes of success. I mean, they just have to show that they can get, back to that level after injuries. But I think the two words I would use is aggressive and flexible, and they still have created. They still have some room to do other stuff, right? Because
they've done a marvelous job of the 2025 cap,
and that's Rob Brzezinski in terms of the structure and all those things. But we said, would you be able to make a splash at both offensive guard and defensive tackle in free agency? And if you sign Byron Murphy, I think we both thought, man, that's going to be doubtful, right? It's going to have to be Byron Murphy and either one of them in terms of making a splash. I would argue Jonathan Allen's a splash.
Oh, quite possibly, yeah.
It's not $100 million. I don't know what he wound up getting.
60 for 3 years.
But he's a guy who he was a cap, kind of a salary cap casualty, right, in Washington.
Correct.
Had some injuries and got older. So, but I think him and Hargrave can really bolster that interior line if they play to the level that they've shown.
And the interior push now, because the two things that I think, especially in the last two games, and then as the playoffs progressed, the two things that just stood out like a sore thumb is your interior lines aren't good enough, and that's where you win. Like, those aren't small things. When it comes to playoffs, you win or lose games based on that. And as we sit here today on the second day of the league year, happy league year second day, those, I'm not saying they're fixed entirely, but Brian Flores now, Chipper, Flores has a top 3 to 5 defense, I project.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago, Flores got the job, or 3 years ago. And he came in and did a really good job with some nice personnel, but Donatel had some guys, they weren't great. And Flores, it felt like he basically used some glue to make it work, and it worked pretty well. Last year, you get the two edge guys, right? So now you got Van Ginkel and Grenard, and now you got a pass rush from there, and there's still and Cashman at interior linebacker, and so it improved more, but it probably still, because the interior line was not great, still was not perfect. Now, with Flores' creativity, if you get any health at all, I mean, watch out. This defense should be damn good.
Well, I think this gives you the potential to get pressure and affect the quarterback without having to blitz a lot or as much. And I even throw in Dallas Turner because I think he should be able to make a pretty significant jump this year. I think you're going to see more playing time from the get-go. I think he's just more familiar. Ideally, he comes back with some weight on him, a little bit bigger. So I'm curious to see how Flores uses him in year 2. But, I just think if you can collapse the pocket up the middle, and it's not just always coming from the edges, I think that just opens up so many different opportunities, and you don't have to blitz so much. I mean, I think it opens up stuff for Flores in terms of that creativity. And along those same lines, oh, by the way, you get Harrison Smith back, which we've talked, that Huge. Is such a, my hunch is, I bet, and Harrison may have came back anyways, but I think he probably looked at these moves and said, you know what? I want to be part of this defense again. I want to be part of.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah, and so, but I look at adding Fries and Taylor or Kelly, Ryan Kelly. All of a sudden, now you think that's a good line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, hey, they got two good tackles. No, you should say that's a good line. If these guys are healthy and perform to what they have shown in Indianapolis, you say that's a good offensive line.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds cliched, but what I really like, they're going to have more snarl there.
Yeah.
Like, it just always felt like they got pushed around, and these two guys are going to give them a certain mentality that I feel like the interior of that line has lacked for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
Just a mean mentality.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure I'm skipping some, but since we were on the beat and he's a Hall of Famer, I mean, you always think about that with Steve Hutchinson and
Burke.
And Burke, yeah.
Burke was nasty.
And I think these guys bring some size too, and some toughness, some nastiness, and so, I mean, it's hard not to be optimistic with what Kwesi and O'Connell have done, and again, I think this is another year of, we talk about continuity. With Flores not getting a head coaching job, him having another year saying, I like this guy, I like this skill set, this would fit good, those pieces. And, does Harrison Smith come back if Flores is not here?
No, I don't think so.
I probably doubt it, but so this is where the staff continuity, I think, really, because I do think, we can talk about Kwesi's lack of extension and struggles with the draft, but I do think when it comes to pro personnel, in terms of free agency,
mm-hmm.
they have a pretty good symmetry between his department and the coaching staff in terms of marrying what they want with their schemes.
What I really like about this too, from a draft standpoint, Chipper, is for the first time, I'm trying to recall the last time the Vikings went into a draft where it didn't feel like they were desperate to add at certain spots.
Yeah.
Because now you're not. Like you can take a DT in the first 2 rounds or in the first round, but you know what? You're not desperate, right? Like you could take a guard, or you could take a versatile lineman from the offensive side. That's great, but you're not desperate. Like, it feels to be like this has created an environment where you can draft to draft as opposed to drafting for needs. And now you might make a mistake like a Booth. And if you do that, you're screwed. This one feels like, opening day of the rookie camp into training camp, guys can be actually eased in, develop, be rotational, but they're not going to absolutely positively have to be key in 2025.
Yeah, and that's where I think you can, your first couple picks, you can just say, we're taking the best player that's there in the areas that we think we need. I still think cornerback can never have enough good corners, right? I do think they need to draft a running back to pair with Aaron Jones. I would try to get I would probably still use one of my first 2 picks on a defensive tackle to get younger there, because obviously you're adding 2 veteran guys. So I would want to get younger there. So I'd probably still spend my first or my second pick on a defensive tackle.
Yep.
Same thing on the offensive side with the interior lineman there.
Yep. And I do think that now, because the haste is gone, my guess is now, and this was probably going to be the case regardless, they will trade back in the first round and get more picks.
Yeah.
But I feel like that the moves that they made put a little bit less stress on, okay, if you don't go get a defensive tackle that can play right now, it's trouble. Yeah. What are your feelings about this one? Cooper Kupp, who got released by the Rams, has been tied to about 4 or 5 teams, including the Vikings. And may I make the case that he's going to get $5 million from the Rams as a parting gift. So he'd like to get paid still, but he's getting $5 million for the coming season. And I feel like, one, if you brought him here as the third guy, it sounds like a demotion at first, but he's been hurt. He's not young. He knows O'Connell. He knows the scheme. And most importantly, playing time exists. We're almost certain that Addison's going to get suspended for 3 games at some point. Yeah. It's probably going to be announced, my guess is in training camp, right? The last 2 years, unfortunately, 2 years ago, Jefferson got hurt. Last year, Jordan missed time. So the more I thought about this, I actually think there's a case to be made that if Cooper Kupp just wants to win, this might be the best spot for Cooper Kupp.
Obviously, yeah, because you look at just his association with Kevin O'Connell, and you're going to go to a team that, if you're wanting to win, I mean, this is a team that's built to win now. And it's interesting because we always think about it in pecking order, and it's probably the right way to do it. Obviously, Jefferson's number one, is going to get
right.
But with the volume of opportunities that receivers get in this offense, I mean, heck, we see games where Addison thrives. I mean, you see stretches where he has more yards and touchdown catches than Jefferson. So just because you're coming in labeled, okay, you're the third guy, doesn't mean there's not going to be opportunities for you. You're not going to be on the field because, we know O'Connell is kind of a mad scientist in terms of route combinations and different ways to stack receivers and all that. So I think if I was him, I would say, okay, if the money's good, right? I mean, because that's still important.
Yeah, but they've got room to pay.
You're gonna get favorable matchups because of Jefferson and Addison, and so you're going to be on the field a lot. It's not you're just going to be standing on the sideline watching. So it makes a ton of sense for me. I don't know what contract ideas he has in terms of dollar amount and all that, but if it's that's what I was talking about earlier, is like they've done a good job of managing the money they have now to where they still have some money to fill other needs. And so I have to think O'Connell's going to be interested in that, right? That option.
Oh, God, yeah.
As much as,
are you kidding?
As Zimmer always said, how many corners do you need? One more. I bet if you told O'Connell how many quarterbacks or wide receivers do you need, he would say one more. So, especially a guy who, with his his resume and track record and understanding of his offense.
Right. So to go back to the cornerback spot, what is your, I guess, level of comfort to concern there? Murphy being back is huge.
Yes.
You signed the Rodgers kid from the Eagles. Now he is 27, was suspended for 2023 because of the gambling with the Colts. Sounds like he's more of a slot guy, but what's your comfort at the corner position?
Yeah, better, right? I mean, I won't sit here and pretend to know a lot about Rodgers.
I don't either.
I don't know much about him other than, you know what? He played on a Super Bowl team and he's 27, and he that's appealing. I want to know about Mekhi Blackmon, like his recovery and where he's at. That would go a long way to do it. But I think you still, again, I still think you can never have enough. So I think, and there'll be guys kind of the second, third wave of free agency, or even this, when guys get cut in camp, that they will pick up. Shaq Griffin, is he signed anywhere?
No, he could very well come back here.
He's a guy that if you needed to, obviously he's a veteran, but if he's a guy you could re-sign, I would think pretty easily. But I still think I would look long and hard with a draft pick at that spot. I just think if you can continue to add younger players there at that position, I would do it. Yeah.
And I think Blackmon, is going to be good. He's coming off an ACL, but again, like with McCarthy, it's an ACL or it's a meniscus. It's not, we long ago perfected fixing these things. Yeah. It's not catastrophic. Were there any contracts, as you either saw the guys who returned, Jones, Murphy, or the new guys? Were there any contracts that made you scratch your head? And I guess I'll start with Jones, 2 years, $20 million, but Yeah, I did it first too. 13 guaranteed. It's not as much as it looked like because these contracts are fake to a large degree at times. But yeah, that one did stop me at first, at least on Sunday when I saw it.
Well, that's the same thing. When I saw it and I said 2 years, 20 million, I was like, wow. But like anything, the devil's in the details, right? How much is guaranteed? What is, what's the cap hit? All those things that are beyond just the black and white numbers of, what the reads. So, but I don't think they wanted to just start over in the draft and just bring in a veteran of whoever. And
Jones was really, he is really good. I know it sounds stupid, but that dude is really good in the room.
Yeah, well, that's 100% part of the value. Now, he had a good year. Mm-hmm. I think the volume was too much. I think the touches were too much, and I think they know that. They need to take some of that off him. But, if it fits under the salary cap and they have room to do other stuff, then it's not, if it's not a problem for them, it shouldn't be, they were willing to do that. But when you first saw the numbers, but I think having him back is tremendous. And I do think with one of those later round picks, because there is such depth in this draft at running back, you can find a quality running back to, learn from him, and then next year maybe be the focal guy.
Yeah, or split time. I
think split time this year. I think absolutely split time this year. But in terms of
take over.
Take over. Yeah.
So the Fries one to me is probably among the most encouraging because it's a big contract. 5 years, $88 million. He actually played 5 games in 2024. Fractured his right tibia, was lost. He's now fine. But
what's his age, Judd?
He is 27. He's 27. But here's what I love about this. This is how long, again, to go back to interior offensive line, how long has it been since the Vikings made this type of commitment to a guard, which I've always felt like it's weird. In 2006 with Hutch, they set the market, right? And so it's like this franchise gets it with guard because at the time the position was evolving. And the Vikings are like, screw it, we're going to go get a kick-ass guard. And then since 2010 or so, it's just been a revolving doors of this guy will work, this guy will work, this guy will work. This one to me signifies that somebody in that building gets it now because that's a contract. That's the one contract here that I don't think is cute. I think the Murphy contract and the Fries contract are not trying to get cute. They're not trying to prolong a career. They are, we have to make an investment. And on the Fries one, I love that one.
Yeah, because, Judd, I think we've seen in recent years particularly the kind of impact that defenses are having by pass rushing tackles up the middle. And look at how uncomfortable Mahomes looked in the Super Bowl by the pressure that came up the middle. Look at what that does to quarterbacks. I mean, they tell you, when it's on the outside, it's one thing. When it's coming right at your face.
Yeah, Kirk.
And for too long, it's been patchwork. Well, let's just get a veteran guy and, we can, because we're paying a lot to the tackles. Let's get a veteran guy who we can either slide in there or just, we'll find a guy. Well, I think it's proven that the interior is too important to just try to do a patchwork, and you're going to have to invest. And those guys are now cost a lot of money. And so I agree with you. Like the two that stand out were Murphy, I think, were an absolute must. It was going to be expensive, but an absolute must. But, and I also said defensive tackle. I went back and forth. I thought defensive tackle was maybe more important. It's for the same argument that we're arguing here.
Right.
But you're right that particularly, Judd, if you're turning it over to a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback, you have to do everything in your power to create the best environment for J.J. McCarthy to succeed. Right now, he has a really good line. He has really good receivers, and he has a proven back and a head coach. I mean, the situation now is conducive for him to step in and either show that he can do it or not. But you can't sit here and say, well, what is the thing that KO always says? Organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail organizations, where you can't say, look at this, what they're putting J.J. McCarthy in, and say they failed him. If it doesn't work out, it's not because the personnel is bad around him.
Absolutely. So we did a bunch of projections and talking about are they going to, because I think we both agreed they were probably going to get 2 interior O linemen at the end of the day. But we did a bunch of projections. I thought it might be 2 guards. I thought Bradbury was safe. Did it surprise you at all that he was not safe? I don't think he's going to be on this team. There's been talk about him going to guard. He hasn't played guard since like college, like his first year of college. But did the fact that they went and got a right guard, that doesn't surprise us one bit. But the fact that Ryan Kelly is a center and that Garrett looks like he is going to be probably either traded, if you can be so fortunate to get a conditional draft pick for him, and or be cut.
Released. Yeah. I don't want to say I was surprised, Judd. I mean, I thought all 3 of them. I said from the beginning I would try to get.
That was optimistic, Chipper.
I know you. I mean, people thought I was crazy saying or you can't get 3 in one season, or one off season. But I don't know that any of them were at the point where you said irreplaceable at this point.
Oh no, I agree. I'm saying financially, the financial game of trying to get guys.
Yeah,
all 3 of them could be replaced.
Sure. So I guess I'm not surprised. I just thought all 3 of them were vulnerable or susceptible to be replaced, and curious to see what they do at left guard. You know,
that might not be said either yet.
Might not be said either. Yeah. So, and you know, I think Bradbury will be gone. There's probably some restructuring of players that are out there that they can find more money for. So,
I think they can do a fairly significant and advantageous to the player restructure of O'Neal's contract.
Yeah.
Get some more cap room, but they've set themselves up really well. Like that. That's the impressive thing. This is not like a spending spree that's going to break them. I don't think.
Well, and this is the thing. You know, I wrote my column. It's like they've transitioned to a. I keep calling him rookie, and we'll just say rookie because it's his first year.
Yeah.
But they're still in very much win now mode. That they're going to be a team that people project to win a lot of games. I think they should. If it's, you know, even if JJ's there, because of the talent around him and what O'Connell did with Darnold, there's going to be the expectation. Might be unfair, might be unrealistic. I don't know, but there's going to be that expectation. If he could get that out of Darnold, he can get JJ to perform at a pretty high level as a rookie.
McCarthy at quarterback, first day of training camp. What is your win projection right this second?
Well, they're not going to win 14 games, right? You just can't pencil that in. 10, 11?
I mean, I could see 11. Yeah. 11 or 12.
11? Yeah.
I mean, if McCarthy thrives, which I'm not convinced he won't thrive, like he'll make mistakes. They all make mistakes.
Well, that's it. Yeah, every quarterback makes it.
But I mean, I could see 11 or 12.
Yeah, I mean, 14 is such a special. I mean,
14.
You don't ever.
Everything has to go right for the most part.
I mean,
until it goes wrong.
14-3-2. Yeah, that's right.
At the end in Detroit.
Judd, I would say with what they have, 10 or 11. Maybe. I mean, the defense is going to be good.
I'm with you.
The offensive line is going to be good. Wide receivers are going to be good. I think they're going to be able to. There's reason to be optimistic here.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, how much do you think the Detroit and Rams game cratered Sam Darnold's market?
I think it did. I mean, I don't think there was anybody after those games were saying, well, he's getting $40 million a year, like we were saying,
some people still did, Chipper.
There's no way. There's no way he was getting that. I mean, he got a Baker Mayfield deal, which is probably what it should have been, right? I mean, he had a good year. I mean, the last 2 games were a disaster, but he had a good year. And I think he's proven that in the right situation, he can be a good quarterback. But I just, if I'm the Vikings, you see what they're doing, there's just no way I was going to pay 25 or 30 million to have him back.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, like, a Pittsburgh where I thought he'd be a great fit with that big arm. And now they've got, Metcalf and
Dickens.
I thought he'd be a great fit there, and it's pretty clear that until Seattle traded Smith, to the Raiders, I think that the scuttlebutt from the combine about there being basically zero market for Sam, I now think that was probably true, which does surprise me a little bit. But yeah, I was. I mean, we all knew that those last 2 games were going to hurt him a lot. Yeah. I didn't know how much, and I think it was just a ton.
I do think it was a combination of those 2 games creating the fear of, oh my gosh, this is the Sam that we thought, but also teams also saying, you know what, it was a pretty unique and special thing he had with Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, that whole situation, that environment that we can't replicate here. Probably not everybody thinks that they're,
but that's where Pittsburgh has the receivers. He's got the arm. Like they made the most sense, didn't they?
Yes, and now don't you think that's where Rodgers is going to wind up?
Well, he should have signed there by now.
I know that's what
he's being weird again, which is what he loves to do.
To me, that one, if I just assume that's where he's going to wind up. Especially when Metcalf went there, and now you have those receivers, and they're you talk about their culture of winning, and
Daniel Jones. Now he didn't get paid great. He got the Vikings made what I have heard was a very competitive offer to keep him as a backup. He's going to go to the Colts now, get a very good chance to start. It is my personal opinion that he should have probably, for his long-term come back here. Do you agree? Because I just think the Colts, the Richardson thing, it's going to be a competition. There's got to be a divisiveness in that building about, do we play Richardson? He's a high draft pick. I think Jones has put himself in a very uncomfortable spot. And I know he might play or will play, but I think the Vikings were a really good fit for at least another season and then move on.
But I think it shows that Daniel Jones believed he has a better chance to be the quarterback in Indy than here.
Because he did. He did. Yeah.
And so
he definitely.
And so from that perspective, if he can go there and beat out Richardson and it's a 1-year deal, then he can set himself up and he plays well.
Right. That's the thing.
But if he sits the bench here, if it's JJ, and if I was the quarterback and I knew JJ is healthy, and I'm not beating out the guy they took with the 10th overall pick. It's not happening. They did this for a reason. Well, then you're banking on the guy getting hurt. And if that doesn't happen, you sit the whole bench. You sit the bench the whole year. Well, then what's your selling point to teams? At least the ball's in his hands in Indy. I think that's the way he probably looked at it.
His problem though, now he struggles. Again, there's a faction in that building with, I think, a far more dysfunctional franchise currently than the Vikings. That's like, put the kid back in. We drafted him high. Yeah. Let's see what the kid can do. And now he's benched. I just felt like in the case of Darnold, he had to chase the cash now. I felt like in Jones's case, I would have rather come back here. If JJ gets hurt, you play. If he doesn't, though, you're still considered to be this O'Connell project. I just think the Colts are a weird thing. Like, I don't trust them, and I don't know that Shane Steichen is really that good. Like, some guys are really good OCs and DCs, right? I think Shane Steichen might be exactly that.
Yeah, because, he got, $14 million? I got to imagine the Vikings were around that ballpark. Probably.
Yeah, I think they were on 12, yeah.
Yeah, so not...
You're right.
Yeah, honestly, I bet... being with O'Connell, I'm sure he enjoyed his time here, everything you hear that he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it honestly just comes down to a player saying, I want an opportunity to prove myself, and I feel like I have a better chance of doing that in Indy than I will with J.J. McCarthy, their future there. And so whether it's right or wrong, we'll find out if he wins the job. And because if he goes to Indy and doesn't win the job, then it's the same situation, right?
I think it's worse. Yeah.
Worse because you're the backup at 2 places. You're still not going to be able to. So, but it only makes sense if he goes there and wins the job and plays well.
Yeah, plays well the entire year and doesn't get caught up in the politics and blah 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 blah. So, And if he had signed here, we probably wouldn't be talking about Aaron Rodgers blowing up the Vikings
What are we
phone.
doing?
I don't need that. Nobody needs that. Just start McCarthy. Thanks, Chipper. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
All right, brothers.
All right. See you later.